Wednesday, 10th of March, Psalm 9. I will praise thee, O Lord, with my whole heart. I'll shew forth all thy marvellous works. I'll be glad and rejoice in thee. I will sing praise to thy name, O thou most high. When mine enemies are turned back, they shall fall and perish at thy presence. For thou hast maintained my right and my cause. Thou sattest in the throne judging right. Thou hast rebuked the heathen. Thou hast destroyed the wicked. Thou hast put out their name for ever and ever. O thou enemy, destructions are come to a perpetual end. Thou hast destroyed cities, their memorial is perished with them. But the Lord shall endure for ever. He hath prepared his throne for judgment. He shall judge the world in righteousness. He shall minister judgment to the people in uprightness. The Lord also will be a refuge for the oppressed, a refuge in time of trouble. And they that know thy name will put their trust in thee. For thou, Lord, hast not forsaken them that seek thee. Sing praises to the Lord, which dwelleth in Zion. Declare among the people his doings. When he maketh inquisition for blood, he remembereth them. He forgetteth not the cry of the humble. Have mercy upon me, O Lord. Consider my trouble which I suffer of them that hate me. Thou that liftest me up from the gates of death, that I may shew forth all thy praise in the gates of the daughter of Zion. I will rejoice in thy salvation. The heathen are sunk down in the pit that they made. In the net which they hid is their own foot taken. The Lord is known by the judgment which he executeth. The wicked is snared in the work of his own hands. Higgaion, Selah. The wicked shall be turned into hell, and all the nations that forget God. For the needy shall not always be forgotten. The expectation of the poor shall not perish forever. Arise, O Lord, let not man prevail. Let the heathen be judged in thy sight. Put them in fear, O Lord, that the nations may know themselves to be but men. Selah. Very potent, clearly millennial psalm. He shall judge the world in righteousness. He shall minister judgment to the people in uprightness. Okay, well, this reminds me of Psalm 2. Why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? There are clearly two different types of people here. The people, we understand clearly, is the children of Abraham, Isaac and Jacob. National Israel, a nation coming from one man. Okay, so he shall minister judgment to the people. So there's going to be national Israel and there's going to be the rest of the world. We understand this. Okay, O thou enemy, he's now in verse 6, he's now calling out to the enemy of truth. Destructions are come to a perpetual end. There are some who like to claim there is no burning hell. How can you have something perpetual if you are destroyed the moment you touch hell? And what's the purpose of hell when there's no more destruction? And we know in Revelation 20 that death and hell are cast into the lake of fire, which burneth forever and ever. It's a nonsensical doctrine, and when you follow it through, it doesn't hold up. It's not logical. There was something I wanted to show here. Verse 2, I'll be glad and rejoice in thee. I will sing praise to thy name, O thou most high. Now there is a teaching that's it's not subtle if you know what you're looking for, but it's not necessarily laid out. A few times in Proverbs it is. Mm. And that is that we are not to rejoice in the failure and God's judging the wicked. We're not to rejoice in this because we're not God. We don't know how merciful God was to wicked people. And wicked, I mean those who know truth and refuse to yield to it. So either those people who have been saved and have turned their backs upon the Lord and walked away from the plough, having turned back, or those people in the world who have heard the truth, the Lord has called them and they haven't yielded. That's how I interpret the word wicked. But either way, it's not a place I want to be. That's for sure. Okay? We're not to rejoice. The flesh will want to, believe me. When something happens to someone you know has been, and they've borne the light with dishonest hands. And they've dishonestly used the word and they've cut you up, and then you see a calamity come upon them, and it'll happen, you'll see it. And then you'll want to. But no, Lord, judgment is yours. And in fear and trembling, you realise it's just as valid for you if you go that route too. No, you rejoice in the Lord. You rejoice in him. That's who you rejoice in. Justice is yours. There was a number of Psalms where David says, sackcloth and ashes was my clothing, yet in my calamity you rejoiced, or words to that effect. So when someone was going through, a man he walked into the temple with, a man he had sweet fellowship with, he threw the word around with, and he gained this fantastic uplifting fellowship that you do have with the saints of God. And then when they had a calamity, David was sackcloth and ashes and fasting. And he sought the Lord earnestly because his love was sincere. And when he was going through trauma, these people rejoiced. Nothing like pressure to bring your pressure, when you go through pressure, to bring out what is in the heart of those around you. I've had this numerous times. It's a very hurtful thing. I've been in fellowships where I have poured myself out. Your mother and I poured ourselves out. One particular fellowship, we lived 26 or 23 kilometres away. Working class, I'm working class. No great money. It all went to rent, food and petrol and tithe. That was our life, rent, food, petrol and tithe. And we travelled 23 kilometres there, 23 kilometres back, twice on Sunday, and Tuesday night for practice for music, Wednesday night for prayer meeting, and Thursday night something else was on. I can't remember what it was. I think it was two music practices. So 5 times a week, we did a 46k round trip, and we had no money. And when once a month at my place, 23 kilometres from everywhere else, people couldn't be bothered coming for a men's fellowship. And the assistant pastor's wife rebuked me for being upset at that, saying, petrol's very expensive, you know. People have a long way to come. It's not just around the corner. People, okay, I'm getting sidetracked a little bit. Yet what I'm getting at is I poured myself out. Yet when I was having difficulties, emotional difficulties with how they were dealing with other people and what they were doing in the body of the body believers, immediately I was cut off. And they started pushing me to the end. And that hurts, because these men I fellowship with for years, and I love these men. I would have given my life for them. See, this is the difference. You have to judge your heart. Is it sincere before those around you, your other saints? And this is where David finds himself here. So he rejoices in the Lord, and then he knows their judgment's coming. I rest in the justice of God, yet I am understanding that I am also subject to it. And he's no respecter of persons, the Lord. But he'll deal with you as a son, not as an enemy. You see, this is, you take comfort that he's a father, but you also take stock and know in fear that, in the fear that you have for your father, that if you disobey, he's going to do something. And he must. If he's just, he must. 14, that I may show forth all thy praise in the gates of the daughter of Zion, I will rejoice in thy salvation. 13, he's crying, have mercy upon me, O Lord. Consider my trouble, which I suffer of them that hate me. Your enemies are going to be in the body. It's hard for you to see because we don't fellowship in churches and church circles much anymore. But there'll come a time, and you're with Christians in a group, where you'll spend a lot of time with them and you'll have a high opinion of them. Something will come about, you'll have a disagreement of some sort. And the invective, the hate that'll come from their mouths, and you'll be hurt. You're like, I spent so much time talking with this man. But the Lord is teaching you this. The Lord is teaching you to press into him. Okay? He's teaching you to, and this is, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Okay? Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Okay? The heathen are sunk down to the pit that they made, in the net which they hid is their own foot taken. Okay? The Lord is known by the judgment which he executed. The wicked is snared in the work of his own hands. Two different types of people here, 15 and 16. The heathen, those who don't believe and are unbelievers. Okay, they've laid a snare or a net, and the wicked is snared in the work of his own hands. There are those who will wait for you to say something that's slightly out of tune, slightly out of whack, and they'll throw their Bible verses at you. The purpose is to cut you down because you're just wrong. And the heathen, they are looking for why you don't run with them to the same excessive riot. That's what they're doing.
Do you apparently refer to the heathen?
The unsaved, yes. See, there's two different types of people.
Yeah.
Praise the Lord.